Hi, everybody. It is Tuesday Night Roundtable, and we are live tonight. If you're joining us to watch right now, I want to thank you for being here tonight. I've got chat on, so if you have comments or questions that you'd like to pose, please post them up and we will try to address those this evening. If you happen to be watching this at some other later time and you have a question or comment or something that you want to share or ask our guest speakers tonight, please always do just post that up later and I will make sure to forward it on to them and get the information. So as usual, the first thing that I'm going to ask tonight is for you to please share this video along with any information that we post about it, and also to check out our Facebook page, website, or LinkedIn page for justify.org, JUSTDEFY.org, community activism group, and we're supporting our conservative values candidates and moving our mission forward. So I've been doing roundtables now almost this entire year, and I'm excited to have a great topic this evening to be talking about. Excuse me. And I have guest speakers here tonight, Nancy McNally, who is the area coordinator for HD 29, and Kathleen Dodaro, who is the chair for HD 35. I've asked them to come in those capacities this evening, although both of them have a lot of other roles that they've held. They've both been politically active and done a lot of things in the community. And so they are both experienced community members and have a deeper understanding of what's going on in a lot of different levels. And so I just asked them to join me this evening. We're going to be talking a little bit about local government and just how impactful local government can be. I think that oftentimes, particularly in election years where we are electing at the federal level and presidential races, it's very easy to get tied up in those races and forget that the people we elect locally as city council persons, commissioners, district attorneys, House representatives, senators at the state level have probably as much, if not more, impact over our day-to-day lives than any of those folks that are over in Washington, D.C. So that can be good and that can also be bad. And I think that we have definitely seen some things this year that people would consider an unproductive or overreaching impact from local government. So tonight we're gonna focus in a little bit on an issue that's going on in the city of Westminster. So these ladies represent House districts that kind of cross over the city of Westminster. Kathleen's in Adams County, which is sort of east of Sheridan, and Nancy is west of Sheridan. Of course, their House districts encompass more than just the city of Westminster. But the city of Westminster does in total sit in those two districts. So that's one of the reasons I asked them to be here, and just because of their level of involvement and things over the years. So first thing I want to do is just introduce each of them and ask them to speak for a moment about why they're passionate about this type of thing, and have them share a little bit about what their understanding or how they would explain, a simplified explanation of what they think is going on there. So Nancy, I'm going to go ahead and have you go first, if you would, please.
Thanks for having me tonight. It has been a busy time in Jeffco because our House District 29 seat is an open seat. The person that was there was term limited, so we don't have an incumbent running. And our House seat is very volatile because one time a Democrat will be elected. The next 2 years, it could be a Republican. A Republican might get reelected, and then the next time a Democrat, they might stay in for 8 years. It has gone back and forth, and we have lived here for 43 years. So it's what makes it exciting and why we work so hard. Vanessa DeMott is running for that seat. We have Vicki Payne running in House District 27, and we have Lynn Gerber running for Senate District 19. So between that and then all of, as you said, county has to cover the whole county. So I'll be walking with Matt Durkin. I've been walking with Joni Inman and Nancy Pelosi is running for the State Board of Education. So you try to help everybody out, and you just find yourself walking a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. And a lot of those folks are people who I've had the pleasure to meet with. Many of them have been on this exact same roundtable that you're sitting on tonight. So it's always been my pleasure to meet them. And of course, earlier this year, I was out on the campaign trail with some of them, and we have some really great people over there in Jeffco. But many of the names you mentioned, like I said, have even been here on the roundtable with me. So
They have worked hard, and I'll be out yet later this week, continuing to walk. I always say, you knock on doors and keep walking and doing the telephoning until 7 o'clock election night. You can find somebody that hasn't voted yet, and it's going to be critical. And since I'm going to be election judge, can I do a little short thing on that? I know a lot of people love to come to voting centers, but unless you have truly lost your ballot or have some problems with it, let me just share, I'm going to be in a library, and because the libraries are closed and with the state mandates, things are going to be much different. And I just want you to be prepared. If you do need to come to a VSP, come early. I don't know how it's going to work on Adam's side. I know the Jeffco side, I've gone to my first training. Of course, it's the 6-foot rule all the way around. With the library I used to be in, we could walk them through, and they could stand in line all the way back to they come in the entrance, then they go through the library entrance, and then they line up to the wall of if they had to, and we had like 100 lining up at a time. That won't happen this year. You will have the 6 foot, and as soon as we hit a magic number, you're going to have to be outside. So I just want people to be prepared and come, knowing it's going to be a slower process. People, unless you are at a machine, aren't going to be allowed in until those people leave and we can clean up, and then the next person comes in to get to the the computer judge, and then get your ballots. So it's going to be a little slower going to a VSP. It doesn't mean we want to discourage you, but if you get your mail-in ballot, you are welcome to come and drop it off, because you know it's a secured ballot box, and it's locked, but you can come inside and do that. I would suggest doing that. It will be much quicker for you than trying to stand in line and vote at the machine.
Awesome. Thank you. And I'll just give a plug in general, which I've been plugging on my sites as well. Please, almost every county needs poll watchers and election judges.
Mhm.
So if you're able to donate your time to any of those causes, I know that in Adams County, Kathleen and I both sit, in positions on ACRC. And if you can and have the inclination to be a poll watcher, you can contact Joanne Winholtz, who's the chair over there, and get signed up for that. And then if you want to do election judge things, you can contact the county elections office directly in your county. So I'm always getting a shout out for that, because we need folks to do that.
Right. And if you love making phone calls, call either of the Adams County or Jeffco office. They would love to have your body there helping make phone calls.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, well, Kathleen, could you talk to us a little bit now? Tell us a little bit about some of the things you're doing, what you're passionate about, why this is a passion for you, and just a little bit of your understanding of what's going on over there in Westminster.
Well, actually, there's a lot going on over in Westminster, and not all of it is really good. And that's kind of disappointing. We do have some great candidates that are running for office, and we've been working really hard. The HD 35 group has been out there hitting the streets and campaigning and talking to people, and we've got some great candidates. Basically, one of the major things that I've been working on is this recall of the Westminster City Council. We really felt when we met HD 35 that was one of the things that we needed to speak loudly to our constituents, to say, we support you. What is happening here is that people can't afford their water bills. And they were told that they were going to go up $11 a month. And in many cases, they've doubled, they've tripled. Some people are paying $800 to $1,200 a month. So what we've done is we've got a group of people together to say, let's hold people accountable and find out what's going on. And we're doing a recall of 3 city council members and the mayor. And our hope is to really get to the bottom of what's been a long-term thing. This didn't just happen this year. It's been kind of leading on to this. And I spoke to a woman, which was really just heartbreaking. She's retired on a fixed income. And 3 months in a row now, her bill has been $350 more than it was. So we're talking well over $400.
Yeah.
She said, I mean, do the math. You know, after 3 or 4 months, it catches up with you, and she's worried about buying groceries. I've got people that have lawns that are just dying because what they've done, they've worked out a tier system and a billing cycle that can add 4 or 5 days to your cycle. So you go into the next tier, and therefore you end up with a $1,200 bill for the month. And we just felt that this was really important. The highest amount in Westminster, tier 3, is $12.88 per 1,000 gallons. Posted on the website. And when you look at Wheat Ridge or you look at Broomfield, which is $3.30, or Wheat Ridge, $6.80, Denver, $5.66, it gets just a little scary. And we're trying to think, what is really going on here? People need to get involved. You're right, Nancy. People need to get involved. They need to go to the meetings. And one of the things that's exponentially harder this year is that they're holding online. Nobody can go to the meetings.
Yeah.
All of your residents that are retired and don't have computer skills or, you know, that nature, they're left out of the system.
Yeah.
And
well, I think that this year, and this is an opinion of mine, whether someone shares or not, I don't know, but I do think that a lot of local government officials in the state of Colorado at various levels, whether it be from the city to the school boards to health departments, whatever it might be, seem to have gone to an online presence under the auspice of COVID-19. But they have also, I think, in many instances, I'm just going to say it. They've abused the situation and utilized it as an opportunity to hide behind their computer in some circumstances. And of course, I certainly hope that that's not what is going on with the Westminster City Council. I hope that no government official would do that. But I do think that that has happened in a number of different positions throughout the state. And of course, it is up to us to hold them accountable to that. So we've been told that masks in public and social distancing are supposed to be protecting us. And if that's the case, I understand that it does require a bit more pomp and circumstance, like you were describing, Nancy. We don't want to discourage people from going to polls. We know people need to do that. There are some people that need to do that for whatever reason. It takes extra work, but that's your job as a public servant, to put in the work to make yourself accessible to all citizens, not just a select few of them. And I do feel like this issue with the water bills, it sounds like to me, not only the issue with the water bills, but the capacity to hold accountable and be present along with the city council and really have the transparency of being in a meeting and that type of thing is most, the ones suffering the most from this are probably retired or elderly citizens in the city of Westminster. And that's, of course, very sad to see because there's an obvious disenfranchisement from government and politics that happens almost naturally at some point, and then we're exacerbating that, tenfold with these types of tactics, and that's sad to see.
The other thing that they have been doing on Facebook is put sponsored, I call them ads, to get their message across. And I was reading one to my husband because I don't understand, like, I didn't put in our sprinkling system, but I'm reading what they have as their ad on Facebook to communicate to us how much it takes to water your grass. And so I'm reading, and I said, and every zone, and I understand what that is, has 10 to 15 heads. And he stopped me, and I can't repeat what he said, but he said, there is no way anyone has 10 to 15 heads in a zone because there's not enough pressure. You would be not even getting a drip out of each one of those sprinkler heads. He said, that is just false. But they were equating, if you had that and you had it on for so long, it would equal I think it was 1,000 flushes of your toilet. Anyway, so they're losing credibility because they aren't giving factual things out there. I think we have 4 heads in each of our zones. We don't even have 15 heads in our whole yard. So at least be factual. And Kathleen, you brought up a great piece. It's the cycle that's, especially during the summer, because they can't guarantee which day, or it's not always the 27 days or the 30 or the 33. So if you happen one month to be billed with 27, and then you're on the opposite end the next month and you're billed for 33 days, that could be up to 2 to 3 extra waterings on that one water bill and put you into another tier. There's nothing right now to tell you, here's where you're at. So here's where you're going to be billed. Do you want to shut off your sprinkler system for 1 or 2 times? Or you aren't giving any choices. It just automatically all happens. And people just don't understand all of this piece, and they have no choices in it. I have woke up many nights trying to figure out how they could be more responsive in the midst of COVID, and I've come up with some ideas. I don't think anyone can stand and say, well, we can't have public this or that. We have plenty of parks. I was just at the historic Westminster area on Saturday, and we had a little, we had some tents up and some booths, and we were more than 6 feet apart from each other, and had a nice event down there. And people were able to come and talk to you more than 6 feet away. Well, they could set up in these parks and have people that have questions, at least have a person, real live person to talk to, instead of, I've heard how many people have tried to call and don't get their phone calls answered. It's the frustration that has led to what the city is dealing with. And I listened to a council meeting last night. People have got to learn to listen to what's being said by the other person, not having yourself ready for an answer because you heard water or whatever subject come up and you just zip in with the answer. That's not listening. And I have listened to the pain, and Kathleen, you have too, of these people that are having to choose between, do I get my medicine? Do I pay my water bill? Do I get groceries? How do I manage this? And the answer is Zeroscape. I've had people look at Zeroscaping, and you can't get the help from the city unless you hire a contractor, which isn't cheap. And they have you going. You feel like you're going in this big spin and you're just being sucked dry because you can't have those conversations right now. And it's been 6 months of not having these conversations. The frustration level is at an all-time high.
Well, I think also why the people are frustrated is because they don't believe they're being told the truth.
Mm-hmm.
I've got an example of this. Your code, this Westminster City Code, says the billing cycle will be 27 to 33 days. That's the code. I have a person that they billed in 24 days. So that definitely took that person. And then what happened is that at the other end, they added those 4 to 5 days. And the next month, they got a bill that was horrendous. I mean, when you start playing with billing cycles, went out and put new meters in to the tune of something like $466 million or $46 million, I believe. Tremendous amount of money. I'm sorry, let me clarify that. I got my fact wrong. It's 14 million. I'm getting those fours out there. And you put in new meters that were supposed to measure accurately. And what they ended up doing is after people got the meters, that's when their bills went up tremendously. Well, what they found out was that they are measuring on 1/10 of a gallon instead of per 1,000 gallon increments. And it makes a huge difference. All of this makes a huge difference in the end. The billing cycle is the way it's made.
So let me understand this. So each time you use a little bit of water, instead of that getting added in and added in and added into that 1,000 gallon or whatever measurement, it's being measured on that 1/10. And then each time it turns on and shuts off, if it's under that 1/10, it rounds up or something like that. Is that basically what's happening?
I've been trying to speak specifically to the facts tonight. I do not have proof of that, but that is what people are thinking it's doing because the bills are going up so exponentially after they get these meters. It's just and nothing is changing. They're not getting bigger lawns. They're not getting more people in the house. They're not doing any of that.
Yeah, they haven't added a football field, their backyard, 14 people in the house. They don't have a car wash out front. So here's the thing that's frustrating for me, right? Is that here are two people. Nancy, do you live in the city of Westminster?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And Kathleen, you live in the city of Westminster, and you've been there for years and years and years.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. If two people like yourselves who are pretty politically savvy, fairly well connected, and understand how to maneuver through systems in political systems and governmental systems for the most part, right? Don't have a dang clue as to what the hell these meters are doing because the information is not there. Or there's this, is it $100 million? This is what I was told by someone, $100 million that's in this reserve, but we haven't been able to identify where this money's invested or what's going on exactly there. And I know that all of these things they're not all necessarily one and the same thing, but there's all these different things, right? Mm-hmm. So what's frustrating to me is that if the two of you can't understand this, what is the likelihood that other citizens are going to be able to understand it? You two are looking for the information. You are trying to grasp the information. And it sounds to me like it's a secret. And that's not how government should work, right? Public servants are there to serve the community, and they should, there shouldn't be a secret. And if it's secret enough that two people that are motivated as you can't figure it out, I don't think other people are going to figure it out. And so that's sad because that almost feels like that might be by design. But this is part of kind of what I was talking about, that I think there's some abuses in a lot of different areas throughout the state. And we've used COVID as an additional excuse to have that happen. So my big thing is, it seems like this is a partisan issue in some way now, but should it be? I mean, should providing basic services like water to people in a fashion that they can afford, or that is being done with full disclosure, appropriately. I mean, we're talking about the dissemination of basic services for people in the community. And that should not be a partisan issue, but it seems like it's become one in Westminster. Am I reading that wrong? Either one of you guys.
I think that's a possibility, but the answer to that is no, it shouldn't. Water is a necessity.
Mm-hmm.
We're looking at necessities of life, and that's not something that should be partisan. Everybody's entitled to water, and in the knowledge of, you're right, I did say that, $100 million in this fund. Where is it? What's it for? A lot of rumor is out there right now that it's pretty simple what they're doing. And this is rumor, not fact, that what they're doing is really passing on the cost to the citizens, not charging the developers. There's a tremendous amount of development that's going on in this city right now. A lot of apartment houses, a lot of building going on. And there's one particular developer that would really, come out ahead if they didn't have to pay for a development of infrastructure, expansion of infrastructure, and so forth. And that's the rumor right now. That's what's making people so angry, is nobody knows. Nobody knows where the 100 million is. Nobody knows why they decided to spend 14 million on new meters that aren't doing anything that was any better than the old meters, except making your bill go up. It doesn't make sense. That's a lot of money when you start looking at it.
Well, the other thing that I've heard council repeatedly, and I sit and pull my hair out because the 12 years I was on council, every year we had a capital improvement plan, and we had it for that year and the next 4 years out. Mm-hmm. Water infrastructure is always on there. And it's like anybody's budget. When we went through bad times in 2008, we couldn't do everything we wanted to do. But then when things get better, you put stuff back in. If you have emergencies, you always have your contingency plan to do it. But what I hear from a council that I don't know if they go back and know what happened in the past or not, but continually you hear infrastructure hasn't been kept up with, and so we have to do it. And when you look at the graph that they had last night, they released it just before the council meeting, and some would like you to believe there was never increases, it wasn't managed correctly, on and on and on. And I listened to that, and I know what we did. We had a capital improvement plan for 5 years, and the next year, because 1 year went, you added on. So it was always 5 years looking at what we needed done, why we needed it done, and we did care about the infrastructure, and millions of dollars went into the infrastructure. So what it does depend on is how aggressive a utility department wants to be. And they keep coming up with, last night they brought up, well, in the 1980s, most of the infrastructure for this city was built. And your point, since then, and I've talked to past city managers because I didn't work under them. I've gone and said, would you sit down with me and tell me? I know what I did for 12 years. I know things I passed. I know things I had questions on. And that whole list was there last night prior to the meeting, showing who voted for what from 2000 or 1999 on. And there has been an aggressive water piece that's gone on for the infrastructure and caring for the infrastructure, because any one of us can only live for 4 days without water. That should be the number one piece in our city that they care about, is water. My biggest concern is, have they already overbuilt with everything they've done and all of the exemptions they've made to different building pieces and no one's looking at that whole picture? I have yet to hear because when I left in 2013, we had enough water for everyone with the current comprehensive land use plan at that time for 120,000 residents, and we had the water for it to build out, and it was sustainable. I don't know what we have today. I don't know.
And it sounds to me like, and then Kathy, I think you have something to say, but one of the things that I've noticed of being a long-term resident of Adams County, and I've lived in Westminster and I'm familiar with it. My family lives there. And, one of the things that I think is problematic, well, there's two things, is there's an imbalance between giving breaks to developers and promoting development versus the protection of the existing residents. So growth, unchecked growth, and it's not just the unchecked growth, but it's the type of growth now that is occurring in Westminster that I think is substantially different than what we've seen in Westminster ever, or that was initially planned for as the long-term 5-year plans you were looking at. So now what I'm seeing a lot in Westminster is we're developing upward. So we have land, and so you had long-term land use plans based on what infrastructures were there and that type of thing. Never with the intention that a plot of land this big would have 8 stories on it, 9 stories, 10 stories, and now we're seeing so much of that type of building going in over there and being approved without making an accurate determination of whether or not this is sustainable and how it's going to damage the existing residents of the city. Does that sound, am I interpreting that correctly? You think, Kathy, you were going to say something. What do you think about that?
Yeah, this is exactly what Nancy said, and what you just said is exactly what the residents in my neighborhood have been very concerned about for some time now. And as a matter of fact, last year, they were signing petitions and gave them to city council and made quite a big deal about, we have 490 homes in my subdivision here, and we had well over, somewhere around 800 signatures because every voter obviously in the home could sign. And we were looking at that and saying, what is going on here? They were trying to stop the rezoning of basically right across the street from our subdivision of these low-income housing. They were trying to stop because it was going to be these high-rise apartments and lower income housing and condos and things of that nature. And they said it's just not, it's not sustainable for traffic reasons, education reasons. We're not expanding our schools. Our kids are already in classrooms, in some cases of 25 to 30 students. They're not talking about fixing any of that. And Nancy, you're right. There's been a budget plan which included infrastructure building for water a long time ago. What's happened to that money? What's done? What happened to those plans? That should have carried us out a long ways. So people are thinking about these things and saying, this isn't right. Something's wrong. We don't have all the facts. And we can't seem to get them, no matter how many times we ask.
And certainly, one development of 490 homes is not representative of all of Westminster. But if you have 800 voters out of 490 homes that are in agreement that this is a problem, that's a pretty strong presence if you're just taking a representative sample, right? So statistically speaking, we like to take samples in statistics. As a previous psychologist and stuff, man, we love our representative samples. Random sample. But if you take that as a random sample, that alone speaks volumes to the fact that there is a lack of transparency that is significant at best, if not irresponsible.
Yeah.
And that's kind of frightening. So, for time's sake, I want to ask you guys something. Nancy, you said this, you listen to the meetings, get involved.
But don't have any bricks in your hand because you might throw it through your computer.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, don't destroy your own computer when you want to, strangle the computer. But the other thing is to come together, the residents, and I do see a lot of people are coming together over this issue, and that's good. For me, in the position of being now in political activism, really community activism, the biggest piece of this for me is we have to, as the residents, become ultra responsible for holding people accountable. And we need to make it very clear when we go to the polls that we are not going to tolerate this behavior from people. And so we have to educate ourselves about who candidates are. How do we do a recall? What city council members are being supportive of this? Are there it sounds like there are some city council members who are want to try to resolve this, that are concerned about the citizens and want to try to resolve this, obviously, because you're not recalling the entire city council. So it's clear that there are some. So how do, for me, it's about telling people to ally with those people, to let their voice be heard, and get involved in things. I think that, and I'm going to say this as a conservative activist, I think that for a long time, those of us who fall in that camp have been too relaxed in our approach to politics. I think that for too long, we've kind of allowed things to go unchecked with the notion that, that could never happen. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen. Well, a lot of it's happening. And, just not being aware at the local level. So that's kind of the thing for me. So if you guys, the two of you, had a call to action right now for folks that are in Westminster suffering from this, what would that be, and how can people help? How could my group help? We're going to be rallying this weekend, and we've asked people if they want to be there with these recall petitions. So we want to support people's right to gather and take into question the people that they've elected to serve them. But what else would you ask of people, or what would you tell them? What's your call to action at this point?
Well, they've had the group that came together to get this all started had a water protest 1, 2, and 3. I think they've had, and so I'd never been to a protest. So they said we had to come in our car and social distance by parking in every other parking space, that we were to behave and stay in our cars. They had all the ground rules. So I went, and if any counselor out there is thinking this is just this small group, ones that maybe they think are ahead of all of this or whatnot, boy, that would be a big mistake, because I rolled down my windows just so I could see other people. There were people from every section of this city. There were people there that I know that have never gotten involved in anything, no matter how good or bad. They're supportive, but you just don't see them. And they were there. I can't express for them, they don't know what else to do. So when somebody offered to have a safe protest rally at the City Hall, no one realized, no one was in City Hall, that the counselors weren't in there, that they're in their own homes. So then they realized, well, then nobody even hears them honking and whatnot. But they got the news there. They've had great news coverage. I applaud this group. They're growing. They are dedicated. And when you believe in something as they do, they're showing people how to get it done and do it. It's not easy to do a recall. It's not easy at all. It takes a lot of effort. It takes a ton of volunteers. If that's your calling, we can help you with who to get a hold of, because I know they need help. But this is what happens when people they have no other choices before them. They can't go to a council meeting. If you call in or write an email, it has to be by a certain time to be in the minutes or to be heard at council meeting. It's like everything's just growing smaller and smaller to be able to share your voice. And I did go to the second protest meeting, or the rally, and there were even more people. It was just amazing. I couldn't go to the third. My husband had knee surgery, so I was having to help with him, but it has been amazing to me. But I do know from listening to them that I'm able to hear from, it is totally out of absolute, what else is there to do? This is written into the law, what you can do, and this is the last step that they know what to do, and they're doing it.
The other thing that they need to do is that they need to look at Nextdoor, because they are posting where people are gathering signatures, the dates and times and locations. So even if you can't help other petitions, my gosh, get out there and go sign the petitions. And look at Nextdoor, look at where we are, look at where the location is and the date and time, and make sure you get there and get your name on a petition. I will make one last comment, Nancy. There are some city council members that do know how serious this is. This is a fact. It happens to be the mayor. There were some people taking recalls, and they had a table set out, and it was where they were doing some shredding at City Hall.
It was Saturday at the Shredathon.
Yes, it was. And the mayor walked up to the policeman and he said, have these people removed. That's a fact. And we have witnesses. And the police officer said, no, sir, they are not doing anything wrong. This is a public place. They have a right to be here. What they're doing is legal. They're not doing anything illegal. I will not remove them. He was very irate. So
He was.
there are some people that are getting the hint that this is serious.
And that group has been nothing but honest with the police. When they're doing their protests, they call and let them know they're coming. They tell them that they're having people stay inside. It's been fun protests because everybody's been safe and you didn't mingle. You stayed in your car. Like I said, I'd never been to one, and it was good.
I went to two of them myself.
It's just so sad for me as people are coming out to protest and city council members are in their houses instead of in City Hall. Last I checked, I would think that politicians who represent their citizens should be considered essential workers. If the guy at the liquor store and everybody at Walmart and me, my husband, we're all essential workers. I mean, what is more essential than running a city? Seems pretty essential to me. So that's infuriating to me. And I'm not even a resident of Westminster to think that they're getting to sit in their homes and not consider themselves essential. And not even, and of course, again, I think that this is a guise under COVID to remain anonymous to the protesters. And again, I don't live in Westminster and I have not been privy to any of these things, but I think that it is criminal of a mayor to try to obstruct a peaceful protest by the people that he is supposed to be representing. We have a lot of not peaceful protests going on in this state right now that's being allowed by a lot of different mayors and a lot of different people. And we need people to step up and lead by example and show what peaceful protest is. That is what this country was founded on. We have at our core a right to dissent from what is going on. And as a public servant, and that's what you are, Mr. Mayor, if you have been elected by the public, as a public servant, it is your duty to uphold those conditions of our Constitution. Our Constitution. It is your duty to uphold our Constitution. And that's part of what we have here. So we do need people to show by example that you can protest peacefully, you can follow the rules, you can be respectful of the police officers that are there when you do that. And I respect anybody who is putting together those types of protests. I think it's so important right now. And also that we show young people not to give up. Not to give up, that you have to get out there and do those things.
And I really want to laud the police officer who did that. Really wonderful that he stuck up for the people and he did the right thing. And a big thank you to that person.
Well, ladies, I'm going to post some more information out on my sites. I'm only one person, and my group, justify.org, is new, and we're still a small community activist group, but we are a very committed small group. We are having a rally this Saturday, a Day to Defy, a conservative solidarity rally. We have invited the folks that are heading up the petitions for recall in Westminster to be at our rally. We will also have people there who are holding petitions for recall for Governor Polis there, as well as a number of different candidates will be there. And so we are encouraging everybody to come out there, sign those petitions, get involved, see your candidates, show your patriotism, and just, again, show what it means to hold a peaceful public event where we exercise our rights of expression about our government and hold people accountable to that. So one rally site will actually be in Westminster, and our other rally site's going to be in Loveland Saturday from 2 to 4. So we'll continue to support those efforts through our rallies. I really encourage people to come out to that. If you visit justify.org, it's JUSTDEFY.org. We are a Facebook group. We have a LinkedIn page and also our website. You can get all the details about that rally. So if you're inclined to sign that petition and you haven't already had an opportunity to do that, it will be at that rally as well. So we'd love to see you out there. We will, of course, socially distance and be responsible to our public at that rally. And but I do want folks to know that we will support that and do whatever we can to continue to put the word out about that. And Nancy, if you're available, I'd love to see you at the rally. I know Kathleen will be there, and quite a few of the candidates that you mentioned earlier. So we'll be excited to see them out there. And just continue, people, to please stay involved, question everything. I taught college for 10 years, and I used to tell my students, don't believe me. And they would look at me like I was crazy. And I'd say, don't believe me. I want you to go research it yourself, question everything. And they'd say, well, you want me to question you? And I'd say, hell yes, I want you to question me. I want you to question everything, So question everything, learn, read, find the facts. And if you have people who are acting as public servants who are hiding the facts, then work to get rid of them. That's the best thing I can say. And do it within the limits of the law. We're not going to go out and encourage anybody to burn down buildings like some people have encouraged. And some people are doing. So don't do that. But get out there and do that. And thank you, both of you ladies, for being here tonight. I really greatly appreciate your time and you guys taking the effort to meet with me and to just to give me your time this evening.
Thank you
Watch
very
for
much.
your ballot in the mail and vote.
Yes, bring it to a secure Dropbox.
Yep.
Because the Democrats are texting their constituents all day, every day, telling them to bring their ballots to the mailbox, even though they claim that the mail is perfectly safe. They say it's perfectly safe, but they are telling their constituents not to mail their ballots. Interesting. So bring it to a secure location. You're out in Jeffco, bring it to Nancy, at her secure location, and be a poll watcher, be involved, be an election judge. We need those people there. We need people from both the Democratic and Republican parties to be
They
there.
are desperate for judges on both sides, Adams and Jeffco. They need you tomorrow.
Okay, so if you are interested in doing that, if you're watching this video and you want to do that, you don't know how to do it, send me a private message. I'll figure it out. I will personally get you in contact with someone. I've done that already for some people up in Weld County who reached out to me and said, hey, what do I do? And I was like, here's the phone number, here's the person, here's this. I went and I researched it. So if you don't have the means to do it, I'll figure it out for you and I will get you the information. All right, guys. Thanks again, guys.
Thanks, Cynthia.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you bet.
Bye, Kathleen.
Bye to both of you guys. And we'll end our live portion of this here in a second. And don't forget to check out all of our candidates in both counties. If you have questions for Kathleen or Nancy that you didn't get to ask tonight, forward them on to me and I'll get them to these two wonderful ladies. And vote early and often at a secured site. And visit justify.org if you have more questions. Thanks, guys.